what brought you to role playing?
Wow. So I want to say it was actually what was this? I first really played D&D with 3.5, but it was like I got invited by some buddies to go to this thing, and it just wasn't really, it didn't really fit quite right, and I was like just kind of overwhelmed by, they kind of threw me in the middle of this campaign. I didn't really know what was happening, and I was like, okay, maybe this isn't really the thing for me. Sounds good for you guys, but I'll, whatever. And then in about 2014, 2015, there was a show on called Harmon Quest with Dan Harmon. So I started watching that, and I was like, "What is this D&D thing? This is awesome!" So after I watched Harmon Quest, I went over and saw Acquisitions Incorporated, and I was like, "Oh my, wait, this is D&D. This is awesome!" Like, okay, was it a LARP? Yeah. So from there, I started getting a little bit more into the checking out a bit more. I saw Critical Role, but I didn't really get into the actual play format quite like that. And then eventually I met my girlfriend, and we actually met because I threw a D&D joke her way, and that managed to hit. So we met, we started playing D&D together, and it became a way that we started bonding. This was about 2015, 2016. And then once I learned about what is homebrew, you can write stuff for the game. I was a huge Final Fantasy fan growing up, Fire Emblem, Pokemon, all the JRPG and tactical game kind of fare. And once I learned about that, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can make my own monsters now. What is this? So I just started toying with the system more and more. Eventually releasing my first class, the Merchant. And whenever the Merchant released, I started talking with some other class designers that were over on the DMs Guild, and they really kind of they almost boot camped me through the 5e system, what all we've learned in writing for it, what can you and can't you mess with too much. And then honestly, from about 2000, I want to say it was 2020 was whenever I really started actually making decent money doing design work, right? So I started up my YouTube channel where I was kind of critiquing the game from a design perspective, and it seemed like I had a lot of attention. And then I started in on the design live streams where I was making classes while I was interacting with chat and everything. That really took off. And once we got the ENnie, and then once I started getting platinum bestsellers over on the guild, it went from being this is paying for pizza money a couple times a month to I'm now doing it full time, right? Stuff I've already released now and is in print is I'm just able to live off of that now, which is it's really rare. It's really rare, but it's super cool to be able to do that.
Yes.
And yeah, that's kind of how I grew up and how I became who I am today.
Well, so that's that. I was going to ask you the next question is about what brought you to YouTube. So it was kind of simultaneous. You're talking about the success on the DMs Guild, but also YouTube kind of facilitating then success on the guild. Those were kind of the same kinds of things. It was going on at the same time.
Yeah, I had thought originally. I mean, there's still videos on my channel of me doing music. I mean, you can see from my room. By trade, I'm a professional guitar player. So I go and do musical theater stuff, or usually jazz gigs was kind of my thing. It's what I got my degree for in college. So really it started out with music, and I was like, all right, well, I like YouTube, but I've always been a little bit intimidating. I've always thought it was a little bit intimidating to jump into it and think all right, well, I'm doing the music thing now. And plus that actually put you in front of a lot of guys that are doing cruise ship recruiting. So that was always a dream gig. You get out of college and you don't go on tour or something like that. You get hit up to go get on a cruise ship and go play for a jazz band over there, right? But I knew it really wasn't going to click for me because I have a girlfriend, I've got 2 dogs, and the first cruise ship one that came up was I did the interview and the audition in September of 2019, and they wanted me to go on a cruise ship for 6 months starting in November. So I would have been in the Mediterranean right at the middle of the start of the pandemic, and I was back then I was I need to stay here with them. And then whenever that started, I was I dodged the biggest bullet ever with that thing. But I still do occasional music type videos on the channel. And that's what the original intent I thought was. I always thought that's what I was going to do with YouTube. And then it just turned into game design and talking about this game. And yeah.
Well, that does seem like a dream kind of turn for most gamers. That
Yeah.
you start writing things for the DMs Guild and you catch fire on YouTube and it all starts to work.
Yeah. It didn't originally, the original intent rather wasn't for it to be like a marketing tool or anything like that. It was like I started up and I was talking about stuff over there. But I mean, I can't deny now, like it does give me an edge over some other people on the guild where it's like, I've got the YouTube channel, so I do have like my own built-in audience now. Whereas for the most part, a lot of guys are relying on a newsletter. There's a bit more to it where I'm like, I've got the content over on my channel, and then people are going and seeing the game content that I make, and there's a lot of crossover with that, right? People will find my classes, and then they look me up, and they're like, "Oh, he's got a YouTube channel," or they see my YouTube channel, and they're like, "Oh, wait, he writes stuff on the guild," and then they go check me out over there. There's all kinds of crossover from that, and